Hey everybody, it's Minius, and I probably go on about Mass Effect's combat system more than some of you like, but I really do like it.
Do you have any idea what you've done?
And one of the reasons I really like it is not just the kinds of abilities you can use, but the frequency of which you can use them, which allows the games to move far past being just a shooter. In the recent gameplay reveal, we got a look at some of the abilities in Mass Effect Andromeda. In fact, I counted 20 of them, and I'm going to go over all of them, although we didn't actually see some of them in action, and some are new, and others are unidentifiable. But let's start with the obvious ones that are returning to the franchise. The first here is Biotic Charge, and that's all over the gameplay trailer, and it was actually the only ability returning that we knew about ahead of time. Biotic Charge has really been a staple of the Vanguard class since Mass Effect 2, though there are no classes in Andromeda, but that leaves this ability open for everyone to use, which should lead to some interesting combinations. For instance, this character here with Biotic Charge also has Concussive Shot, which is also around since Mass Effect 2 and normally something you'd never be able to use with Biotic Charge, which opens up some interesting combos, like being able to stun or stagger an enemy and prime them with a Concussive Shot, then follow that up with a Biotic Charge to detonate and devastate. The next returning ability that's easily identifiable is the Sentry Turret, which is damn near identical to the Geth Turret, both from Mass Effect 3 and the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer, and somewhat useful if you know how to spec it and use it right. This flamethrower right here is far more useful though, and far more popular, brought into the multiplayer as the Flamer, and this updated version appears to be launched from the wrist, which we've seen in promo images first, and I can already tell that this is going to be a favorite of many of you. For more fire, I'm pretty sure this ability is Incinerate, though we don't get a great look at it, and Incinerate was one of my favorite abilities, though it was probably a little bit underpowered throughout the series.
Flammable or inflammable. Forget which, doesn't matter.
I'm hoping it will be more useful, especially for tech explosions, and later in the trailer we get a look at the character with Incinerate and probably Cryoblast. In the multiplayer especially, using a freezing power followed up by a heat power was incredibly effective and incredibly satisfying. Here we have Pull, also in the series since the second game. Now, I always found Pull more fun to use and it actually was effective, but we'll have to test out this new version. Then we've got the return of Tactical Cloak. I think people would have rioted if this ability wasn't in Mass Effect Andromeda, but I've got a few more questions about how this ability really works with some of the new game mechanics. For instance, will we be able to cloak, then jump back into the air, hover, and then take a shot at someone? Because that sounds really awesome. You can see at multiple points in the trailer the jump pack being used in tandem with abilities, which looks like a lot of fun. So that's 8 returning abilities I can identify with confidence. There are others though that I think I know what they are, although they're somewhat in doubt to varying degrees. Let's start with this weird looking ability here, which kind of looks brand new, but I think it might be Overload because of the way it damages shields and then jumps from target to target. And it would actually be somewhat bizarre if Overload wasn't in the game, as it's one of the 5 abilities that have been in every single Mass Effect so far. And if this is Overload, I'm not sure I like how it appears to work. One of the reasons I really liked Overload in the later games was its explosive nature, which worked great in creating tech explosions. Of course, we don't get a great look at this in action, and there is a legitimate chance that this ability is something else entirely. The character with the Sentry Turret appears to have 2 returning abilities. The first is the Cluster Grenade, and I am counting grenades as abilities, which is how they were classified in 2 and 3. This grenade appears to be fired from the gun, which could be an animation thing or could indicate that it's something else, because it could be the multi-frag grenade from the N7 Devastator Soldier from the multiplayer. This character also appears to have a proximity mine, but that is a total guess though. We don't even get to see this thing explode in the brief clip, and it could do something else entirely. Now, for some of the abilities that we don't actually see in action but have icons for that are familiar enough for me to make a guess, because this right here looks to me like Push or Throw, which is an ability that was a ton of fun to use. I think this icon here represents Singularity, which is almost certainly in the game anyway. It was mentioned in the Game Informer article, and aside from that is one of those 5 abilities that have been in every single Mass Effect game so far. The other ability mentioned in the Game Informer article is Shockwave, which I think you can see the icon of here. We don't get a look at that in action either, at least a full look. Some of these clips pop up for less than a second. The icon accompanying it, I'm far less confident in, but I think it could be Carnage, which is another old Mass Effect ability, though it didn't show up in the second game. And finally, we've got this icon, which I really hope is the Marksman ability, which is in a multi-way tie for my favorite ability in Mass Effect period. Of course, it could be Adrenaline Rush or something, but I'm pretty confident that this is a soldier/weapon buff ability, and I'm very, very glad to see them returning to the series. There are two new abilities that we can already see clearly used in the trailer. The first one I'm going to call Biotic Block until we get an official name, and we get a ton of this ability in the trailer, and it looks pretty damn useful, especially for those who want to play a more in-the-open run-and-gun style. But for those who like to hunker down and use cover, there is this ability, which I'm going to call Tech Wall. I think this has a chance to be very useful, especially given the open nature of some of the gameplay. The last two we get in the trailer are just icons, and I don't really know what they are.
Critical failure.
This one here is almost certainly a grenade, and probably an awesome grenade, as there's a limited supply of it in the both times we see it. And then there's this thing, and I have no idea what this is. It looks like some kind of toxic ability, and we've gotten poison abilities before in the multiplayer, but we don't see this in action, and what it is anybody's guess, which I welcome you to do in the comments section. What do you think of some of the guesses I made, and what abilities do you think these last few are? I'm putting up at the screen all of the 20 abilities I saw in the gameplay trailer. Now, I might have missed some, and there are sure to be more. The Mass Effect series has had somewhere close to 95 different abilities in its history, though a lot of those were multiplayer exclusive, and that number includes ammo powers, which I'll get into in my next full video. I'll repeat this again, I love the abilities in Mass Effect. I think they're one of the many, many reasons that make this a great series. I'll continue to update this list as we get more reveals and confirmations, and when we're actually able to use these abilities, I'll go into them way more in depth, and I'll do update videos on each of these confirmation type things, including the character list, which we've got a bunch more on. But next up, I'm going to take a look at all of the confirmed weapons we've got so far. Let me know what you think of this confirmed series in the comments section, or just by giving the video a like, because if you like this video, you should give it a like. It really helps out the channel. Keep an eye on MiniusGC for more Mass Effect videos. But for now,
I should go.